Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Okay, the big news that broke yesterday, the return of the 14th Emir of Kano. It will be as the 16th Emir of Kano. This is as a result of some legal, movements. And there we have it. Governor Abba Yusuf of Kano State is actually set to present an appointment letter to the 16th Emir of Kano, who is also the 14th Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi II. Traditional rulers, traditional title holders, politicians, and the media have converged on the Africa House venue, Africa House being a hall within the government house in Kano, anticipating the arrival of Emir Sanusi and Governor Abba Yusuf. Security is watertight around the government house where the event is taking place. And being a Friday, it is expected, or it is thought, that the 16th Emir, actually, it'll be interesting how we'll be describing him, the 14th and 16th Emir of Kano is expected to, after receiving the appointment letter, visit the Kano City Central Mosque, where he will either take part in the prayers or indeed lead the prayers. So that's what it's like, and it's a very, it's a unique kind of a situation. I have a couple of gentlemen here to talk about the whole scenario. As I said, the news broke. Sitting right next to me in studio here is Mr. Malaki Ugumadu. He's a constitutional lawyer and former president of the Committee for the Defense of Human Rights. Malaki, thank you very much for coming on, as always.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Indeed.
Delighted to be here.
And we've got Dr. Kaudi Isuola, who is a research associate professor of political behavior at the Institute of Africa and Diaspora Studies. A fine morning to you, Kayode. Good morning.
Good morning, Yori.
Okay,
good morning,
then.
Everybody.
Okay, then. The way the camera caught you, you seem to just be, you're tired of it all. But I'm sure it's not like that. It must have been a different kind of reflection.
Well, perhaps a mix of the two. You are tired, but you are not, because you just have to keep on.
Yeah. Let me start with you in as much as we have you. Muhammad Sanusi the second, 14th Emir of Kano, and any time from now, upon receiving the instrument of office, becoming at this, also the 16th Emir of Kano. Now, there's a sense in which history is repeating itself here, because if you go back to the late 70s, early 80s, there was a situation that was not quite as, not quite dissimilar to this. The only difference being that the emir then, Ado Bayero, was not removed, only suspended by the Babangida, administration, I believe. So here we are. We've come back again 40 years later, and we have this situation in Kano. The same 5 local councils that were created then and ultimately cancelled have been created again by the immediate past governor here in this present time. And it would appear that all of this has sort of cancels all of that out. Does that strike you from the historical perspective, Kadi?
Well, it does. It does in the sense that it's a reminder of how the political class continues to intervene in our traditional institutions in Nigeria. When I say political class, I will include the military in the past, because even the soldier, Babangida, was occupying a political role as at that time. Before now, there were situations in which traditional offices were sacred, and they were of the grassroots, and they were taken as representative or true, authentic, if you like, autochthonous representative of the people.
Yes.
Today, we've seen from all over the country, not just Kano, in Oyo State, particularly Ogbomoso, even Oyo Town, where you have the laughing, and several other parts of the country where the political class are using executive power to determine who rules or who does not rule, or to revenge the removal of someone at a particular time. For me, I'm not a lawyer, but if the law permits the governor to do what he did, I will say legally it's in order, especially because the reasons given from the press statement made after that is that there was need for unity, which implies that before then, Kano was suffering from disunity. I wonder if that is in the news. And that in order to retain Kano as the historical and cultural headquarters of the North, again in the statement. So if these are reasons, and then the third reason is to foster socio-economic development. So if Kano was indeed suffering from all this, and in the judgment of the governor, he thinks replacing the emirs will solve the problem, so be it. You cannot scrape people's head behind them. However, what makes it look suspicious, as if it is politics of vengeance, is the fact that there is a seeming drama in the way the law operates. The law was passed by the parliament the same day, signed to law the same day, and then put into effect immediately the same day. I wish this is, this is how things work in this country.
Mm-hmm.
We have the minimum wage, ASU agreement. Those have gone on for 16, 15 years. No head, no tail.
Yeah.
But where there is vested interest, the political class can formulate law the same day, implement law the same day, and make it look like a magic.
Indeed.
It tells you the Nigerian political system is a class of vested interest.
Okay, let me come back to you, Kayode. Let me come back to you.
Thank you.
Let me come back to you, Kayode. Thank you very much. Let me come back to you. Malati, you are a constitutional lawyer, and if anybody is thinking about the laws, reference was made to it there. All of this is on the instrumentality of the law. It was that very instrumentality that allowed or enabled, maybe even empowered the former governor to remove the 14th emir, and it was for insubordination. It was for insubordination and interference in political affairs. Well, now the emir is back, but he's not going to be back as the 14th. He's now back as the 16th emir because Ado Bayero he is the 15th until the very moment when the instrumentality of office is transferred. What does the law say about all of this? And bear in mind, please, that this goes back to Rimi's time. Governor Emir of Kano.
So the law, they say, is an ass. But I'd like to thank Prof.
Yes.
Prof for that background given, and then emphasizing the point that whether we like it or not, you could see the hand of the ruling class in all of this, albeit in a very convoluted manner. In my view, and this is with profound respect, and in deference to people who may have opposing view, but I think our traditional institution is now about caught by the intrigues of politics. Very effectively, that has largely happened to the judiciary. And I'm not just saying this. If you're listening and following people like Professor Odinkalo Chidi and a host of others who have become critical, you will attest to what I'm saying. But this is the point. Whether the law permits it or not, in such scenario, in such circumstances where it is now very clear that the traditional institutions in this country, particularly what we refer to the first-class traditional rulers, were the Emir of Kano, Oba of Benin, Owele of Onitsha, Oni of Ife, and so on and so forth belong. Part of what constitutes the grace and ambience and importance and influence of these institutions is the certainty of that office and almost a stool that is above board and reproach. But where you now can predict that if the pendulum swings politically, this man will go, then at that point, my statement that the traditional institution has now been caught by politics becomes not just valid, but verifiable. So I come to the point about what does the law say? Because that's your pointed question. The Kano State Emirate law, which is the law that the governor has now leveraged on after the amendment to act, is such that vests that power on the governor. But whereas that is so, can it really be explained away? Is it possible, as it stands now, that political meanings cannot be read into what has happened? Considering that clearly, very clearly, Emir Lamido Sanusi fell out completely with the APC chairman, Ganduje, and we saw what the powers of the governor could be in that circumstance. All that needed to be done was to kickstart the process, activate the State House of Assembly, then that emirate, the Kano Emirate, was balkanized into 5.
Yes.
And thereby whittling down the influence of this and effectively removing him. And he was instantly dethroned.
In fact, he was banished.
Banished.
To Nasarawa somewhere.
Now, this is history repeating itself from yet another angle. Because power has changed hands. The political calculations have also shifted. And the focus of power, the locus of power have moved, or has moved, where it is now in the interest of the present political class, as Doctor said, to have Sanusi back. Now, the same law that we talk about is what they have leveraged on to obtain an injunction, as at this morning.
Yeah.
Now, that injunction is an injunction given to an ex parte application. So, you see why they say...
Thank you for reaching that place, Malaki, because I was going to ask you the effect of this injunction, which is ex parte, which I think in layman's language, the other party doesn't really know about when this party went to court.
Yes, they were not put on notice.
They were not put on notice, and the judge has seen fit to grant it, is why it is being reported now as there is an injunction. Do all injunctions actually hold water?
Injunctions are very potent, equitable remedies in our law. And it's not peculiar to Nigerian jurisprudence. It is everywhere. What has become problematic in our case is that they have come under serious abuse in very discernible cases. However, as a method and recognized style of procedure in our jurisprudence is very, very important. It serves to prevent the destruction of the subject matter of a case, what we call the res. And the conditions upon which you can leverage on that are known. But what has played out in so many occasions, particularly with respect to politically exposed cases, I think we are gradually moving into traditionally exposed cases now, is that first they do what we call forum shopping. In other words, where would you easily get this kind of injunction? It is immaterial whether the cause of action did not arise from that particular jurisdiction of the court. That's one. The other is to, take advantage of the very nature of these applications, which are ex parte. In other words, you don't need to put the other party on notice. It is based on affidavit evidence. In other words, you come with all that you want the court to hear about that particular incident requiring some urgency. Mark you don't just come and say, give me injunction. It is predicated on a substantive suit. This time around, we understand it's a fundamental right enforcement procedure. It is a fundamental right action that was instituted and immediately followed with this ex parte application for injunction restraining the law enforcement agencies, as I understand it, from giving effect to that.
The law that to the law that is standing and that has been passed.
To the reappointment of Sanusi as the Emir of Kano.
Okay.
In other words,
even though there is a law that says,
of course,
that it can be done.
No, the appointment was based on the law.
It was based on the law.
So the action taken is what they are now injuncting, pending the determination of the.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Now let me take this back to Kayode, Dr. Isola. So what do you now make of this? Haven't had the benefit of this legal commentary.
Well, I give great thanks to
Malaki Ogumadu
for that very deep legal analysis of the whole situation. There's a very delicate balancing between law and politics. In fact, when we idle as political scientists, we often say law is an instrument in the hands of politics. I mean, as you see, the law is there, but somebody will sit to implement it. And I don't know if Barrister will agree with me. The man who will implement the law can do a lot of things to cause damage or otherwise where political and vested interests are at stake. For me, what I foresee is that this is a gone case. The executive has a way of frustrating, and I'm choosing that word deliberately, frustrating legal processes if they want to, especially, again, I emphasize, when there are vested interests. So, it is neither here nor there. For Yori, my take, which is generic, which I want to put forward to the current governor of Kano State, is that I admire the speed at which this issue was handled. He should extend the same to laws and policies that will reflect positively upon the citizens of Kano and by extension upon the citizens of Nigeria as a whole.
Indeed. Really, thank you, Kayode.
To point directly to what, it took this country almost about 14 years, approximately 20 years, to deal with the PIA Act. It took us almost the same time to deal with the Freedom of Information Act, and so on and so forth. The point being that most of these people-driven, people-pro legislations take endless time, minimum wage, the same thing. But when it comes to sitting on the distribution agency, dispensing with the wealth, collective wealth of this country in a way that directly impacts on these political actors, we don't hear anything less than more than 24 hours, and it's done.
Yes.
So if it is possible to do it that way, it stands to reason that laws that affect the masses of this country can also benefit from that speed. And I guess that is exactly the point that Prof is making.
Yes.
And I concur.
So it was somebody here who said that the lawyer, in fact, I think we'll put on the phones now, just in case. We need to have the phones just before we go on break so that maybe you can get commentary from among our viewership on this. As we are standing by waiting to see what is actually going to happen, we wait for the phones to come on so that you can call in. But as you can see, the scene is set. That is a Africa House. It's a hall within the government house in Kano. It seems set up for the governor to hand over the certificate and therefore for the 14th Emir of Kano to transition into the 16th Emir of Kano because of what has been explained. We'll wait to see how all of that goes, because the commentary we've heard from the lawyer here, I'm sure there will be legal advisors up in the government house in Kano as well. So they themselves will know about all of this.
In short, that will introduce another dimension to the whole thing. Because whether we like it or not, there is already a court order. A court order, as a court order, like judgments of court, is bound to be obeyed. That is section 287 of the Constitution. It is a constitutional provision. And whoever acts contrary to that becomes contemptuous of the law. So certainly it will introduce a different dimension to it in a way that throws up some other dynamics to the whole mix. In my view, they will have no option other than to go back to that court and explore the possibilities of either setting aside what has happened, appealing against it, or engaging frontally with a view to reversing what has happened, if it is in their interest to continue with the litigation.
So, all of that remains to be seen, if it can happen. In the meantime, Reverend Dominic in Alimashaw has called in. Good morning, Reverend.
Good morning, Chief Yori. Good morning, my friend, Mr. Malaki.
Dominic, good to hear from you. Good morning.
Yeah. Chief Yori and my friend in the studio and the professor, let me express my fears. My fear is that the way politicians are interfering towards traditional stew is become worrisome. Number one. Number two is this. Mr. Malaki knows what I'm trying to say. We are driven to anarchy when politicians cannot obey court laws. They choose and pick the one they want to obey. That is near anarchy. Number three, my fear is the current emir who is going to be sworn in today. The man is a great man of intelligence, a very intellectual man, an international man. If I were him, I would not go back to Kano. Why did I say that? It's possible, if you know Kano politics, that by next 3 years, APC will take over governance in Kano. Which means it is possible for the same government, by 4 years, Kano, maybe if it's APC, can reverse it back again and dethrone him. How do we begin to toy with our traditional institutions? Anywhere in the world, that seat, a traditional institution or an Oba or Obi or it's like a semi-god. We don't need to toy with it, but it has been vassalized in Kano, and you may take it, some places in other places in Nigeria. That is the worry. We politicians must find a way to stop interjecting or interfering to traditional stew. It's like Prime Minister of Britain trying to know what is happening in Buckingham Palace. It is mission impossible. So what I'm trying to say is, what is happening in Kano today should not supposed to be Kano problem alone. It's Nigerian problem. And you will know we're very good in copying right or wrong in Nigeria. Politics in this traditional stew is quite demeaning. And I don't know how to describe it.
I think people understand. I think we understand.
I don't understand.
Well, thank you very much, Reverend, for calling in. Let me just quickly take a break.